It's Friday, July 12th, 2024, and Fridays are Ask or Tell Me Anything next on the AM Update. Good morning, everyone. I am President Vladimir Putin. I just got off the phone with the Vice President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. What a disaster that was. Another disaster that was last night for Joe Biden. Man, I think he is gone. I started to tilt into he's gone camp about a week and a half ago. I was just kind of over the edge into he's gone. I'm now completely sure he's not going to survive this. This was a much ballyhooed press conference with the NATO summit yesterday. In fact, all three of the major television networks carried that press conference live. They heard Joe Biden. You saw Joe Biden get up to the lectern, say, okay, it's time to take questions. They've got a list for me here of people to call on. One of the first questions, he was asked something about Kamala Harris, and he said that he wouldn't have hired Vice President Trump if she wasn't the most qualified person for the job. It's just sad, yes. But all these people reporting on this was not just something that happened just yesterday or 2 weeks ago. We've known this for 4 years. It's gotten really bad, yes, but we've known this for 4 years. But goodness gracious, that was a disaster. I think Vice President Trump should invoke the 25th Amendment immediately. Let's go to submissions for Ask or Tell Me Anything. Thanks to all of you who did submit some questions, comments, and news stories to follow. We've got a little bit of everything. Trump Prophecy 2, Elective Bailgaloo. Elective Bailgaloo says, not only do I question whether Joe actually had a cold for the debate, is there any chance he's faking the whole stuttering thing? I'm not sure about faking that. I'm not sure what you mean by that. But faking the whole stuttering thing, like earlier in his career, because I don't think the stutter thing I don't think that's been a real problem. The real problem is dementia or maybe Parkinson's. That's the real problem. It's not the stuttering. You add the stuttering on top of that, and it's much more difficult to understand him. But I'm not sure he's been faking that. So I don't know if he had a cold either. I don't know that. That was an excuse, then it wasn't an excuse, and then it was again. They've kind of been all over the place with that narrative. But I'm not sure about the stuttering, but I'm with you on the cold. I don't know if that was real. Cav Cavalier says, do you think Iowa should change its election system from a caucus to a primary? Nope. I think it should change, though. I think it should change from a caucus to a convention. And I think every state with a primary should go from a primary to a caucus. And every state with a caucus should go from a caucus to a convention. That's how I think things should go. You take as much as possible with a caucus, especially in a place like Iowa where there's no major media centers. It really prioritizes retail politics. Yeah, that's good. But when you go even to a convention, any inclination you would have, any possibility you would have of just peppering the airwaves in major population centers with advertisements for 6 months straight and just basically brainwashing your electorate to vote for the preferred candidate or whoever you want to vote for, that gets diminished when you go to a convention. I think Utah maybe has a convention, if I'm remembering correctly. I'm not totally sure. No, Utah has primary. I know it's some western state that has a convention. Maybe it was Colorado. Some western state has a convention to award their delegates in primary contests. But as much as you can do, prioritize those who are most heavily involved and faithful and invested in the process at a local level. I can tell you, I know ifs and buts, candy and nuts, all that type of thing. If Iowa had a convention, I think January would have turned out a lot different. That's just my take. Uncomfortably Dumb is back, and with some whiplash, some conversational whiplash. Your take on the existence of dragons. The Haunted Cosmos fellas hit at this topic a lot. I used to think it was just fiction, but now I'm starting to wonder if dragons were spiritual manifestations from down below. Yeah, I'm starting to come around to that as well. I'm starting to come around to the existence of dragons, and it's not just the Haunted Cosmos guy. I remember the pastor at my at my church that I attend. He has hit on this as well about the possibility, based on some of the texts that he's seen and some of the studies that he's done of translations. And I can't remember the exact one where this came up. I think we were maybe going through Genesis. But the translations used don't really give too much wiggle room other than the kind of classic definition of dragon that we kind of conjure up in our mind. So I don't hold this in a closed hand, and it's not something that affects the way I live every day. But at the same time, I don't think we should be super quick to dismiss legends and myths of antiquity either. Let's go. Brandon asks 2 questions. What's the bumper music you use for 3 non-political questions? What are your thoughts on Fulton Sheen? I think the spirit of the age has caused our society to forget him and erase him from existence, and we need his messages more now than ever. Well, who is Fulton Sheen? The other question, it's somebody Newman, Love Me Again. Let me see. Newman, Love Me Again. John Newman, Love Me Again. It's an instrumental version of that song. Who is Fulton Sheen? That name sounds familiar. He is an American bishop. The Catholic Church, known for his preaching and especially his work on television and radio. And he passed away in 1979. So I'm not super aware of that individual, but I'll take your word for it. Seems like he was pretty instrumental maybe in your life, so sure. Joe Smith says, do you have any tips for new parents with a newborn about getting enough sleep? Yes, you're not going to get enough sleep. Not in the newborn phase. And I want to give you this advice right off the bat here. The first 12 weeks, especially the first 6 weeks, seem like they're going by forever, and that it's never going to get better. You're always going to be tired. You're always going to be somewhat miserable. You're always going to be exhausted. No, it gets better. It does. It's just the early part and the mid part of the newborn phase is really, really rough, especially on the mama, because that baby needs that mama all the time, especially if you aren't using formula. So it gets better. Now, Bella and I have done with both of our kids now, Taking Cara Babies, Taking Cara. It's C-A-R-A, Taking Cara Babies. And it's a sleep training course. Some people don't like sleep training. Some people even say it's abusive. It's not. It's not. What's abusive is, I wouldn't say abusive. That's going too far. What's not healthy for children, especially babies, is not getting enough sleep. Bella and I had no idea how to help Ben sleep when we brought him home from the hospital. We were just told, hey, newborns like to sleep. They just like to sleep. Well, that's true. But they also need help going to sleep sometimes too. And it's really difficult when, both of our kids to some degree, especially Ben, and Abby did a little bit as well. They fought sleep in the newborn phase. Because as you're starting to get on a little bit of a routine, you can't do that with newborns. Routine is not really a thing that newborns start picking up for until maybe 6, 7, 8 weeks along the way. But you are starting to develop some day-night routines. It's really difficult because sometimes they want to be up for a long time and sometimes they need to be sleeping. And how do you help them go to sleep? Like, you can tell they're tired. They're tired. Their eyebrows are red. They got bags under their eyes. Those are signs of a sleepy baby. How do you help them go to sleep when they refuse to go to sleep? Well, Taking Cara Babies helped us with some methods for doing that. So methods for actually helping babies go to sleep, I think that's invaluable for all parents taking care of babies. Now, as far as sleep training goes, you may not like it. You may like it. It's not really something you can do until they're 4. You start practicing, not actually doing, until they're like 4, 6 weeks, really 6 weeks old. And it's every baby is different. Every baby is different. And this really helped us with Ben, though, is sleep training, especially as he kind of got into a routine, as he hit the 2 and 3 month and 4 month mark. He was a great sleeper after a very tumultuous newborn phase. So maybe look into into sleep training. If you just had this kid, this baby, congratulations, by the way, I should have led with that. If you just had this kid, it's just going to be rough. It's just going to be really rough for the first couple of weeks. Be there for your wife. Be there for your wife. Hopefully you can, one of you can actually be somewhat rested at various points through this. That's something that Bella and I figured out with Abby, is that, in the middle of the night when Abby's up to feed, there's no really point in Dad getting up, because I got to take care of the toddler in the morning, at least when I was home from work. So yeah, look into sleep training. Taking care of babies might help you. Abby now is a great sleeper. She's a great sleeper. Now, probably shouldn't have said that out loud, but she's a great sleeper now. She's going to be 3 months old on Sunday, and I attribute it to sleep training and a really persistent and caring mama that she's got. That really helped her get on a routine and schedule as soon as she was ready for it. Steve Senny says, do you think the turnout operation and ballot harvesting will be in full swing regardless of whether it's Biden or some Democrat wacko? And if so, do you think they would attempt to have more ballots come from red counties to make things seem legit? That's a really good point at the end. Kind of inflating numbers from red counties while still greatly inflating numbers from blue districts or blue areas of counties, to make it seem a little bit more legitimate. Here's the problem, though. There is such thing as a margin for cheating. And the mechanics of how you turn out your ballot harvesting operation, if you're behind on game day, if you're really behind on game day, there's not enough ink in the state of Wisconsin that could churn out enough ballots. So that's an interesting point at the end. But I do think it's going to be on in full force no matter who runs. I just don't know if they have enough ballots. Maybe that's really naive on my part. Maybe that's really naive. Banana Republic says, Aaron, regarding your thoughts on Trump being okay with the abortion pill, I'm staunchly pro-life, but I don't agree with the abortion pill. But don't let perfection be the enemy of the good. Incremental change, Roe v. Wade overturn, is more than we had. The guy has to get elected. Not going to argue with you there. Don't make the good the enemy of the perfect. I don't like the abortion pill. You don't like the abortion pill. And if this is the calculus in your mind, incremental change, objectively, we are in a better spot now than we were 10 years ago. Objectively, I can't argue with that. I can't really argue with your assessment there. So I don't have a problem with that, Banana Republic. Gen X George says, if you could get yourself in Trump's shoes, who would you make your top three? Who would make your top three cut for VP choice? Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantis would be one. Dusty Devers, how about that, from Oklahoma? He would be another one in the top three. Just make everyone's heads explode, including many on the right. And then behind that, how about Chip Roy? Name ID isn't really there. Amongst conservative circles, everybody knows who Chip Roy is, congressman from Texas. But you'd be hard-pressed to do better than kind of those three choices, in my mind anyway. I know the one out of left field is Dusty Devers, but I don't care. Let's do this. Dominic has this story from the Daily Wire regarding a whistleblower telling the Daily Wire how 85,000 unaccompanied minors went missing after a Biden administration dropped them off with sponsors. The Department of Human Services has lost at least 85,000 children who crossed the border illegally as unaccompanied minors after placing them with sponsors who may be trafficking the children into prostitution or forced labor. That just evil. Just evil. This is what you invite with a wide open border. Just abject evil. Oh, we lost 85,000 children? Oh, yes, we're so kind and compassionate. We're going to let you come over in millions over our border because that's just how kind and compassionate we are. But not so kind and compassionate that we can't be trusted or that we can be trusted to actually keep track of 85,000 children. It's just abject wickedness. Going back to Banana Republic just a bit ago, Biden has to lose. You read stories like that and you're like, yeah, Biden has to lose. I get it. I understand. So On a lighter note, Bama Conservative has this. What's the most exotic meat you've smoked or grilled yourself? Any lamb, bison, emu, etc.? No. The most exotic meat I've smoked or grilled myself? Man, You're kind of convicting me here. I need to branch out just a little bit. And try some more stuff. I mean, this is not exotic, but, I smoked some salmon, some fresh-caught salmon at one point. So that's not super exotic. I would like to try some lamb, smoked lamb. There are some good recipes that I've seen for that, or good-looking recipes I've seen for that. So I would like to try some lamb. I have the most exotic meat I've ever had is a camel burger. And I've had multiple camel burgers. They're very good. Ate this from some African place in Minneapolis when I lived up there. Okay. Jim Stalker asks, who are a few of your favorite Christian apologists to study? Well, I'm just going to give you one because I bring his name up sometimes and people don't know who I'm talking about. So I'm not sure if maybe I overestimated his sway or influence, or maybe it's just the people that I've talked to maybe have just happened to never heard of this guy, but it's William Lane Craig. I love William Lane Craig. He's probably the foremost apologist, like intellectual apologist. And not to say anything like Lee Strobel is not. He's an intellectual as well, but actually trained scholar on the biblical worldview and defending the faith. So William Lane Craig would be one that pops to my head, and I'm saying that because a lot of people that I've talked to have never heard of him. All right. I think that'll do it for another Ask or Tell Me Anything. Thanks for listening to the AM update this week. Bella and I will be back tomorrow morning with No Suck Saturday. Excited for that. Until then, though, for the rest of you non-subscribers, see you again on Monday.